Hi, this is Savannah,
And this is Brian from the Dorky Diva Show,
and you're listening to Starboars.
the best place for below average Star Wars.
In a world where people need 80s and 90s movie reviews, two regular Geordies combine forces to bring you the Brother to Brother 80s and 90s movie review podcast. Check them out on Twitter, YouTube, and all decent podcast vendors.
Starboars, best place for below average Star Wars.
Hello there, and welcome to the Starboars Show, the best place for below average Star Wars. I am the Geordie Jedi Pete, and I'm joined with two special guests today, both making their second appearance on the Starboars Show. First up, we've got Jason Hondo Ling. Jason, how are you doing?
Hi Pete, good, and you?
Yeah, I'm fantastic. I'm excited to talk Star Wars. We've got some rumours to talk about, some new merchandise to talk about, and some Lego Star Wars games to talk about, so it's going to be a good time all around.
Yeah, all good.
And also joining us, fresh from doing her Kylo Ren special, is Kat. Kat, how are you doing?
Hey Pete, it's great to be back, albeit tiny bit sad that I don't get to sneak in any Kylo in this episode, but it's going to be great.
I am sure we can find ways to get some Kylo Ren in the episode, don't you worry.
That sounds good.
I'm not saying a word.
So, start off, obviously this game, Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga, it feels like it's been talked about for years now that it was coming out. We finally have a release date of spring 2022, and we got a pretty awesome, hilarious trailer just this week for Star Wars Lego, the Skywalker Saga. Let's go to you first, Jason. Sort of, were you expecting this trailer? Did you think this game would ever come?
I'll be honest, I'd sort of given up hope with this one. So when the trailer landed, it was really fun to sit down and watch it. Obviously, I've loved playing the Lego Star Wars games with my kids. And then seeing this and seeing some of the little bits of footage that they've put together, yeah, it's looking pretty good. And the gameplay, the little snippets that they built into the trailer, looks like you're going to get a good plethora of characters to play with, not just the main characters that you'd expect to see. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And Kat, what were your thoughts on the trailer?
Oh my gosh, I absolutely loved it. The fact that it used the episode 9 music really made it for me. I think if you look at the gameplay trailer, it really explains a lot of why this video game has been pushed back so many times. If you compare some of the shots from the 2019 trailer to this trailer that's just dropped, there's been a massive improvement in the depth, the detail, the vastness of the landscapes that the gameplay is set in. It looks so much more realistic, and as Jason rightly pointed out, the plethora of characters, I think there's over 800 playable characters in this game. So the amount of work that's having to go into it really does explain why it keeps getting pushed back. It is frustrating, but I have total faith that when it is released, it will be amazing.
Yeah, it's true. You can go to over 20 planets as well, I think it said in the trailer. So lots of different landscapes to play in, which will be fun.
Yeah, definitely. And it just some of the footage of the different planets as well. And I enjoyed seeing Mace Windu's having his battle on Mustafar. So, not Mustafar, Geonosis. So I'm wondering, is he actually going to cut off Jango Fett's head.
Well, you know that will be a scene in the game, and you know they'll tie some headless joke into that moment probably. That was one of the things I loved about the trailer was, as Kat pointed out, that sort of the episode 9, the end of the Skywalker Saga music was playing for this trailer for a game that's going to play the entire Skywalker story. I loved how it started, how it was showing you, it was episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. When I was sitting there watching it, I was like, oh, they're going to go through every episode. But then they didn't. Then they ventured off into other things. So they nearly had us there. But yeah, I think the detail and the graphics look absolutely fantastic. Obviously they are Lego figures, so I suppose you've got a bit of a, you don't need to make it look too realistic. But the colours were sharp, the details were sharp. The way it showed you Qui-Gon Jinn slicing through battle droids, was so sharp, so good. That humour that we get from the Lego Star Wars games and all of the Lego games that they put out there and the Lego movies that they put out there, that humour was there, whether it showed you Anakin with that teddy bear and it was like an alien version, a space version of a teddy bear. That deep moment with Qui-Gon Jinn telling Obi-Wan to train the boy, and he's sort of hitting Obi-Wan in the face by accident. It's adding that Lego sprite and Lego humour over some really sort of deep moments. Obviously, I love how it started out with Qui-Gon telling Anakin you need to train the boy, because that really is the beginning of the Skywalker Saga, if you think about it. That's the moment that puts sort of all of these episodes into motion. That's what makes Anakin become a Jedi. And without doing that, Anakin can't turn to the dark side. Anakin can't have children. With Padme, so it is sort of that is almost the spark that starts this whole story off for me. That was quite prominent in the trailer, which I enjoyed. How do you guys feel about this game over? We've had Jedi Fallen Order, for example, which is it's a very serious game. It's canon. It's a story. It's a story we don't know. When you play it, it's a new story to the players. Compared to this, which is going to be more almost arcade based. We're going to be playing missions that we have seen in the movies, although they might be a little bit different. And like I said, that's bringing the Lego humor in. Are you just as excited for this type of game, or do you prefer sort of the games like Jedi Fallen Order?
No, I'm totally still excited for it. It's that humour that really makes these games. Lego The Force Awakens is still one of my all-time favourite video games. Some of the side missions are absolutely hilarious outside of the main plot of The Force Awakens. I think one of them was infiltrating the Finalizer, which is Kylo Ren's Star Destroyer, and there's Hux there with the stormtroopers doing this fitness class. And there was another one where you got to play as the Crimson Corsair, who's a pirate, and he ends up boogieing to disco music on his ship. And it's that lightheartedness, that fun, that really makes these games so enjoyable to play. There's no stress. If you think about a game like Jedi Fallen Order, it's a pretty stressful game. You've only got so many lives. You've got to get better at the combat to be able to progress. You've got to be able to fulfill the missions. There's so many things you have to do. Whereas in the Lego games, it doesn't matter. You can go off and explore before continuing on with the main storyline. You can you can dress up your character, and that just makes it such a game to relax with, I find.
Yeah, and there's something with the Lego stuff that really is just fun. When you look at what they did with the holiday special, and obviously they've also just announced that there's going to be a Halloween special this year, which I'm really, really looking forward to. And I know Kat will probably go along with this because obviously it's linked to the Tales of Vader's Castle, which have been absolutely brilliant comic books done by IDW. So yeah, the whole Lego fun thing for me, and again, as I've said, having kids of my own, it's good to see them dragged into Star Wars by this fun side of things. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Skywalker Saga.
Yeah, I think it's great to see, sort of the investment, sort of by Lego into the Star Wars franchise. Like they did that holiday special, the Christmas special that came out last year. The Halloween special's coming, which is going to be, again, fun. Spring that Lego humor over Star Wars. And obviously this game that's been in development for a long time now. And I mean, I've never actually read why it's been delayed for so long. But has there been any rumours or anything said about why it's taken so long, or was it just because it has taken that long to make?
There hasn't been any rumours that I've particularly seen. I know that some people who have been working on the game as developers have been criticising Warner Brothers and the Lego Group for the lack of transparency about why it has been delayed so much. Looking at that trailer again, though, I mean, this game does represent a culmination for TT Games and Warner Brothers Games in the fact that it will be the last Lego Star Wars game based on the trilogies, based on the Skywalker Saga. So there's obviously a lot of pressure to get it right and to get it done properly. So there's all of that, and I wonder perhaps if they were not told about some of the events during episode 9. So all of that had to be made after episode 9 was released.
Yeah, you got to think, if they were given sort of working scripts to work from, and the first scripts they were given were maybe Colin Trevorrow's episode 9, and then obviously that movie ends up getting scrapped, and we go with a different episode 9. We go with the J.J. Abrams Chris Terrio episode 9. Do you then have to sort of scrap those early ideas and then wait to get new information from the new writer, the new director of the movie, which again does just put a hold on stuff. So yeah, I can understand, why they would be frustrated that there's no transparency there. And, I think the internet's very quick to jump on things of like negativity, like, oh, like it's plagued with production problems or stuff like that. And it's just a case of, well, actually, like the goalposts have changed. We're developing this game to match the Skywalker Saga, so therefore we need to know all the details of the Skywalker Saga to make the game complete and match up. The game is available to pre-order now. It's going to be available in a standard version and a deluxe version. I've not seen any details yet on what the deluxe version is, but if it does come with some minifigures, I probably will be tempted to buy the deluxe version just to get some new minifigures. And it's going to be available on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox, and it's up on Amazon now to pre-order.
Sorry, Pete. I believe the minifigure's going to be the Luke Skywalker with the blue milk. Is that right? Do you know that one, Kat?
I do. I've seen that available, I think, on game.co.uk in Britain.
So the minifigure's Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi with the milk?
No, I think it's either Farm Boy Luke or Return of the Jedi Luke.
I'm pretty sure it's Farm Boy Luke.
So it's the blue milk, not the green milk?
No, blue milk.
That's right.
Got you. See, I'm just greedy because I'd like both. Give me both Lukes and both the milks, please. And I'll pay double.
Hang on, green and blue milk. Shouldn't that be yellow milk at that point?
I mean, who knows where that's from if it's yellow milk? Do not eat yellow snow, as they say.
Definitely.
But yellow is the best flavour of like frozen drinks, I find. When you get like Tango Ice Blasts or Fanta Frozens, I find the yellow one is the best. So maybe yellow milk will be the best.
Maybe we know what's to come in future episodes of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, yellow milk. It'll be available at Disney Parks soon. So, is there any closing thoughts on Lego Star Wars? Is there a certain character you can't wait to play as?
I think you know which character I want to play as in the game.
Yeah, so let's go to you, Kath. So you obviously want to be Kylo Ren or Ben Solo.
Absolutely. I'm hoping
What
there actually
level
is
do you really want to?
I'm hoping there is going to be a Ben Solo character to play. But I would also, I love playing Chewie as well.
What level are you most looking forward to playing as Kylo Ren?
Ooh, the duel scene in Snoke's throne room with Rey.
The throne room from The Last Jedi, yeah?
Yeah.
And what mission are you most looking forward to playing as Chewbacca?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'd happily go back to The Force Awakens to play perhaps some of the Rancor scenes, or actually, again, maybe from The Last Jedi. I wonder if there's going to be like a bonus mission of Chewbacca and the Porgs.
Yeah, like you're playing as Chewbacca and you've got like 10 minutes to eat as many porgs as you can.
I'm thinking we need to
brilliant.
save the Porgs.
Definitely. And Jason, which character are you looking forward to playing as the most?
Oh, it's a difficult one because I know my favourite character's probably not going to be in this at all, so I won't be able to. So I reckon I'd quite like to go back to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and probably maybe the chase with General Grievous.
Very good. I think I'm quite similar. I can't wait to play as Obi-Wan Kenobi or Jango Fett, but I can't wait to play the space mission of chasing through the asteroids above Geonosis.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Where we first see the seismic charges.
Yeah, and did you see the footage of Django's ship as well? I saw a comment online in that we really need that as a Lego kit, and I have to admit it did look pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think the more Slave One and Django and Boba and Mandalorian stuff we get in games and in merchandise, I think the better.
Definitely.
Okay, moving on from Lego, something a bit more serious. It's been reported on JediNews.com that Thandiwe Newton, who was of course Val in Solo: A Star Wars Story, was talking to Inverse, and they were talking about how she was disappointed by the fact that her character Val was killed off in Solo: Star Wars Story. Here's what she had to say. I felt disappointed by Star Wars that my character was killed, and actually in the script she wasn't killed. It happened during filming, and it was much more just to do with the time we had to do the scenes. It's much easier just to have me die than it is to have me fall into a vacuum of space so I can come back sometime. She also went on to say, so I could have come back at some point, but when we came to filming, as far as I was concerned and was aware, when it came to filming that scene, it was too huge a set piece to create, and they just had me blow up and I'm done. But I remember at the time thinking, this is a big, big mistake. Not because of me, not because I wanted to come back. You don't kill off the first black woman to ever have a real role in a Star Wars movie. Like, are you effing joking? So that is the quote from Thandiwe Newton. It sort of made me think. I remember when Solo first came out. Like, I think it was after it first came out on home video. And John Kasdan was talking about how he wishes they hadn't killed her off. And my first thoughts were, well, it's your and your dad's story, so like maybe you should have thought about that beforehand. But now these comments here to me are saying to me that it's more of a production issue. Obviously, we know, the first two directors, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, they pretty much had almost a full principal photography run on the movie, and then they leave the project. They're terminated from the project. Ron Howard comes in to replace them. Production starts back up, and Ron Howard now has sort of he is given extra time to shoot, but the movie's still got to come out on time, and he's got to sort of film the movie and then do post production in the same amount of time that they were just going to do post production. So my first thoughts reading this was like, or maybe they didn't have time to create a new set piece, or the budget if they already run over budget. And is it a case of, Val's going to be vanishing from the story anyway, so let's just do it here, and that way it keeps us on track to get the movie out on time, and it also keeps us in budget a little bit. What were your thoughts on this, Jason?
Yeah, it is sad, and I have to admit, because I have always loved Thandiwe Newton as an actress, and one of the things that I disliked about Solo was the fact that she was in it so little, and I felt the character was wasted at the time. So I completely get where she's coming from, and I also get the whole production side of things, because at the same time her loss was actually quite a I don't know how to describe it, but it was quite a part of the film that shocked you, and so it did bring something to the film. Admittedly, Star Wars has had a problem all the way through, and we've seen the comments from John Boyega that they really haven't dealt with, and also the way they dealt with Kelly Marie Tran as well, with her character Rose Tico. But there's this whole issue with Star Wars as well. When you look back at the original films, there was a very small core amount of actors, and they were the main characters. With the new films, they've brought in a lot of new characters that just they haven't had time to do what they wanted to do with them. I think if these films had been in the hands of like Marvel, we'd have probably had 3.5 hour long films, because they're not scared to do the long films. Whereas Star Wars, they want them to be action packed, quick, and not so long. So yeah, it's sort of inevitable that bits are going to get lost. But I do agree. I think they dropped the ball with that character. But then again, hindsight is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I think for me, I thought, having watched the movie, I think Val's death adds another layer to the sort of relationship Han has with. I've totally forgotten his name now.
Beckett.
Yeah, with Beckett's character, Beckett sort of loses her, and then he's got nothing left, type of thing. And then we then get sort of the Han and Beckett show off at the end. I don't know. I wonder if Empire Strikes Back came out today, whether people would be like, "We have not done enough with Dengar in Empire Strikes Back. We want more Dengar. Why wasn't Dengar shown more?" Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel that, like, yes, it's a shame that I think representation is very important, and I think like it's important to have sort of as many different people in stories, so that everybody can see themselves in these stories. But also, like Val's character wasn't killed because she was black, if that makes sense. But it is a shame that that's the first prominent black woman character, and that we have lost that quite early on, which is a shame. Kat, what's your thoughts?
I mean, Val was a great character, even though Andy did have quite short screen time. The gravitas she brought to Val's character is not to be underestimated. And I think Jason's right in the fact that her death is a very startling moment for the audience. You're not expecting it. You think this is going to be a routine job for Beckett and the gang, and then all of a sudden it goes terribly wrong. And Val makes the ultimate sacrifice, which I think does show her devotion to Beckett. And he wouldn't have gone off with Han and Chewie if he hadn't lost Val and his crew. So there's no way a director or a writer would simply kill off a character. It's interesting, she says in the script that her character survived, but it'd be interesting to see whose script, Lord and Miller's or Von Howard's. I mean, did Ron come in and change the script to make it more to make that scene more emotional by killing her character? From what I've been sort of reading, Thandi, I think, is frustrated in how some actresses, well, a lot of actresses, are being treated by movie makers, and that there needs to be more respect, I think, for their skills. So I think she's just using this as just one example of frustrations she has with the movie making business. But it is a shame that we lost Val and what she represents so quickly. But at the same time, in the literature, such as the comics, it's quite possible that we might see her, because Kira has recently been in the comics, the new War of the Bounty Hunters arc. So I think they could easily go back into Val's past with Beckett, and there could definitely be a book or a comic series with them in.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, if you want, it's obviously a good thing that they've brought in, like in this instance, they've brought in a black woman character, but this black woman character has been written by 2 white men and directed by 3 white men, if you count Phil Lord, Chris Miller, and Ron Howard. So I think Star Wars since 2015 has tried to be more diverse, as it should be, but I think we really need to push that envelope behind the camera as well. Bring in writers, directors, producers, to sort of match what they're trying to do on screen, and in that way as well, I think we will have less chance of this happening again going forward with characters like Val.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's starting to come through with the choice of directors for the Mandalorian, and now obviously with Deborah Chow doing the Obi-Wan series. There's definitely more of a diversity behind the camera coming through, and I also think we're starting to see that on the screen. I think it's something, obviously, as I've said, John Boyega's had conversations with Lucasfilm, and I do think there's no doubt they've got to take it to heed and realise what they're doing. And it's interesting to see what's going to come in the future.
I mean, Jason's
Definitely.
absolutely right there. I think what we see on screen is only part of Star Wars. A lot of the literature of Star Wars is so much more diverse with characters, and I think it would be great if we could take that diverse approach in the literature, whether that's the comics or the books, and apply it to the movies and television programs of Star Wars that we see on screen.
Yeah, definitely. And on that note, I want to put it out here that I want to see a Dr. Aphra series or film. I just love that comic book. The characters that are created in that are very irreverent. So that's what I'm putting out there here and now. We want Dr. Aphra, and that'll really bring in the diversity and show that Star Wars is diverse.
Yeah, I'm a bit behind on Dr. Aphra, but I've read the first, I think, 3 or 4 volumes on the first run, and I loved it. I just need to get caught up. That's a show that would really lend itself to a Disney Plus series. I think it would just be like a absolute rip roaring adventure every week. I think it would be brilliant.
Absolutely. I mean, Aphra's like the Star Wars version of Indiana Jones. She would be amazing to watch and get in all this trouble.
And plus, you get the irreverent droids, which I think they just bring so much to that series.
Oh, her droids. Her droids are the perfect mix of scary and hilarious.
So moving on from that story, obviously this week was the debut of Disney's The Gallery series, The Mandalorian Season 2, the finale episode, where we finally get to see about how they brought Luke Skywalker to life. Jason, you've seen this one. What did you make of it?
I've actually watched it 3 times already. I am a big fan of the Gallery series, even since it began. My biggest criticism back in December when season 2 aired and it was just one episode was, I can't believe this is all we're getting. So when they announced that they were bringing this episode out, I was like, this is perfect. And yeah, it's just delivered all the way through with behind the scenes, some excellent interviews with Mark Hamill in there that really, really make it and show, his love for the whole process. But the one thing that stuck me straight away was and apparently has confused a lot of people, was the revelation that Mark Hamill didn't deliver the lines that you hear on screen. Now, at the time, I remember saying to one of my friends, that was not Mark Hamill saying those words. They've cut those together. And that was, for me, one of the only things that let down that scene, was that it felt like Luke was synthesized. So it sort of clarified what I thought, but still, the way they created a young Mark Hamill, I think they really are setting the bar really high for future episodes.
Yeah, I think for me, I was surprised to see how much work they put into doing the deepfake version, and then went with the de-aging one. Because I feel the de-aging one's probably more expensive and doesn't look as good as the deepfake, where, if you only have them on screen for a couple of moments, I feel you could probably come up with the deepfake. It would have looked more realistic and it would have been cheaper.
Yeah, it's and it was quite interesting, the explanation, because I've obviously seen loads of deepfake videos, but never realised the process and the AI situation. So that was really interesting to listen to what they had to say. But again, yeah, I was surprised they went with the de-aging. Don't get me wrong, they did a lot better job this time than they did like with Carrie Fisher in the end of Rogue One. But there was something about it still that it wasn't quite Mark Hamill. And for me, it was the voice. But otherwise, I think they achieved a brilliant, and it was good to see. I couldn't believe how alike Mark Hamill, his double was. There's been a lot of stuff about Sebastian Stan possibly playing a young Luke Skywalker in a series, but the guy that was doing the double work could easily carry off Luke Skywalker.
I thought seeing Mark
for me, I think obviously
interact.
because. Go on, Cap.
I thought seeing Mark interact with Max, his young Luke Skywalker stand-in, was so poignant, because it's almost like Mark is, he's handing down the baton. He's teaching somebody else how to be Luke Skywalker, and it was such a magical moment, to watch in this episode. Of he's showing Max, gestures of the Force, tilts of the head. And it reminded me of this line in The Legends of Luke Skywalker by Ken Liu, of how everybody is Luke Skywalker. And that really got me, seeing him and Max work together. And I totally agree that he could definitely be Luke in a series.
Yeah, I think for what we need Luke Skywalker to do in this episode, synthesizing the voice, doing the de-aging technique, they pulled it off. What they need to pull off to bring Luke into the story. Were they to make a young Luke Skywalker series, then they'll be quite limited with what they use in there. They'd have to go with another actor, I believe. And my thoughts always been, if they were to do a young Luke Skywalker series, to animate it and have Mark Hamill do the voice.
Yeah, I've thought that in the past as well, but then at the same time, I thought Mark Hamill, clearly from this episode, he's not comfortable with doing the voice as a younger version of himself. Because it was quite interesting when the news, or when it was put out there that Sebastian Stan could play Luke Skywalker, and they put the two images together. And I think Sebastian himself said, no, I wouldn't do it unless I got the go-ahead from Mark Hamill. Now, Mark Hamill's always been very protective of Luke Skywalker and the character, and the way he's been angry about the way he was used in the sequels. He's been very vocal, but at that point he said, "Yeah, I'd be happy for him to play me or play Luke Skywalker." Which just goes to show, even Mark's open to the fact that this character could have more adventures for the audience to see. But yeah, animation's definitely, it'd be interesting to see how long they're going to carry on Bad Batch. I don't think it's going to run as long as Clone Wars did. So yeah, watch this space.
Yeah, I don't think we will get an animated series that's solely Luke, because I think they want that to go mainstream, and that would be like,
True.
Headline show on Disney Plus. But you need the live action to put the bums in the seats. I wonder if it was a case of Mark Hamill saying, "I'm not comfortable doing the voice," or if it was just them making the decision to do it that way.
Yeah, that would be. I'd love to pose that question to Mark. The fact that he was so supportive of this gallery episode, because he gave, when you compare what he did for the films after The Last Jedi, because he was clearly not happy with the way his character was handled, I would say for the documentary and the input he had in the documentary, I think it's pretty clear he was very pleased with what Favreau and Filoni put together. So I should think he had quite a lot of input, because it was obvious from what the guys were saying that they respected his input.
Yeah, I also felt he was along for the ride a bit as well, though. Like, he was a bit like, I'm here to do what he needs to do type of thing, and I'm grateful to be here. I almost got that from him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, but I think there was the enthusiasm there that he'd lost from the sequel films. The interviews were more the Mark Hamill of old, who genuinely wanted to see Luke Skywalker back in Star Wars. And that's what makes me think, I completely agree, is that in some points during the documentary, I thought, did they really need Mark Hamill? But like Kat said, seeing the interaction he had with Max's double, and obviously the work they did to get the facial expressions and everything, I think they definitely wanted him involved, to the point that it wouldn't have worked if he hadn't have been.
Yeah. One of the other things that the documentary brings up is that they obviously did not want this leaking, and from early on they were trying to deceive people on set by, in the script, Dave Filoni decided to call Luke Plo Koon because he thought people would think that he would bring Plo Koon into it, not Luke. So, they did that on purpose to trick people. And then they also did, they had mock-ups of Plo Koon's face sent to digital houses. So, if word did get out, it would be Plo Koon, not Luke Skywalker. Which has since online kicked up a fuss, people saying maybe it should be Plo Koon and Plo Koon should be alive. And I'm just like, that's not what they're saying. They're saying that they came up with a decoy, a believable decoy, to keep the real story secret. What were your thoughts on sort of the levels they went to keep the secret?
Yeah, I think it was amazing that, like they said, they managed to drag it through. And but when they say there was no leaks, it was pretty vocal all the way through. After they'd established that Grogu was going back to the Jedi's, Luke's name kept coming up online. And in fact, I saw his name online. I can't remember seeing Bo Coons. So, yeah, I think maybe they thought they got away with it a bit more than they actually did. But then it was amazing when you finally saw him. So yeah, hats off to them. They kept it as quiet as they possibly could. I think it was more the fans. We had our hopes who could be this Jedi. There was even the hope that possibly it could be Ezra. So, plenty out there.
Yeah, I think for me, obviously people were saying Luke Skywalker, but it wasn't because we knew. It wasn't because it leaked. It's because there's not many Jedi around, and that is a possibility. If that makes sense. It wasn't like we know Ahsoka's coming because Rosario Dawson's leaked it. It wasn't a case of we know Boba Fett's coming because Tim Morrison's leaked it. It wasn't a case of leaks. It was a case of, it's possible that it's Luke because of the time frame and it suits the story. And actually, it wasn't until we saw him in front of us that we believed it was Luke. And actually, the way they set it up, which they described about in the documentary, was that, you see the X-Wing, so it's like, it could be Luke. And then you see him in the hallway with the lightsaber, but it's black and white. Or it could be Luke, and then it shows it in colour, the green. Or it could be Luke. You know it's Luke, but you're telling yourself when you watch it, it might not be. And then obviously you finally see him take it off and you go, it's definitely Luke. Almost trained you to work your mind backwards rather than forwards. So I thought it was really brilliant the way they did that. Kat, what were your thoughts on sort of coming up with like fake names in scripts and not even a fake name, a real character, but using a substitute character?
Oh my gosh, those mock-ups of Plo Koon's head on like a Luke Skywalker costume. I was laughing so hard. I mean, it did look totally ridiculous, and the level of secrecy that they went to, locking Landis in his room to do the de-aging, keeping everybody on set, the smallest crew possible, and it just shows how much care they really do put into it. They want us as fans to be surprised. In the modern age we're living in, with access to the internet and social media, leaks are almost inevitable. And as Star Wars fans, we're dogs of a bone. We want to know. So for them to keep it a secret for as long as they did was nothing short of incredible. I mean, Luke, Mark Hamill and George Lucas have both said that if if Empire Strikes Back was being made now, they never would have been able to keep that Vader secret a secret. So, to keep Luke's appearance at the end a secret was no mean feat. And like both you and Jason were saying, you're in denial that whole time. You think it's Luke. You want it to be Luke. But you're in denial, even though you're being fed all these little breadcrumbs that point to it being Luke. It's not until he takes down his hood and John Williams' music from Return of the Jedi starts playing that you actually got Luke on screen.
Yeah, and I love the way they talk about, they haven't used any John Williams theming at all in this series. 2 whole seasons of no John Williams theming. Obviously, Ludwig's done a fantastic job. But then in this moment here, where we see Luke Skywalker unhooded as the Jedi Knight, we get the Force theme, and it does just drive it home that this is Luke Skywalker.
It's a beautiful moment when
definitely.
When that's playing.
Yeah, the music in The Mandalorian's been beautiful anyway, but the bringing in John Williams and the way it comes across. It does, the whole scene was magic. The one thing that also stuck to my mind and I didn't see answered in this documentary. When you say about the music, is obviously it's pretty clear from what we see that Mark Hamill recorded the majority of his stuff with none of the cast on set. It was just Mark Hamill. But there was also, and obviously Katie Sackhoff said all along that she believed she was talking to a different Jedi. But Ming-Na Wen has said that she enjoyed working with Mark Hamill, and I was trying to work out where the two of those actually ended up working together.
Yeah, because they said that they say in the documentary that the main unit was filming Robert Rodriguez's episode, which actually Ming-Na Wen's a big part of. So when Boba gets the armor back and when Grogu gets stolen by the Dark Troopers. So maybe that was just a slip of the tongue from her.
Yeah, it's almost as unanswered as I don't know if you noticed, but the majority of the time on the gallery episode, R2-D2 appeared to be green.
Yeah, there were scenes when he was in the hallway and he appeared to be green. I think that must have been the way the lights from that lighting rig. I can't remember what they called it now. There's a smaller lighting rig that they've got. It's like a miniature.
The egg.
The egg, yeah. I don't know if that was from that, but because there were scenes where he looked blue and then there were scenes where he looked green. It was weird.
Yeah, the only thing I wondered is obviously I know that there's not always an R2 available for filming. So I wondered if there'd been a green version of R2 that they'd used in the series that they used and then just used digital magic tree to change to the blue. Because I'm pretty sure Lee, who normally operates R2, didn't film for The Mandalorian. If I see him at a convention, I'm going to ask him. But that was just one thing that I noticed. The green was so prominent, I wasn't sure if it was the lighting or whether they were using a different R2 body.
I wonder if that was part of the decoy as well. By having the green one, somebody else can operate that one. If you bring R2 onto set, you almost immediately, everybody's going to be pointing at R2 and saying R2, and R2's always with Luke. So I wonder if it was another step of deceiving everybody.
Quite possibly. That makes the most sense, actually, Kat, now you've said that. Yeah, when I noticed the green one first, and I was like, oh, they must have decolorized it. But then I did see in the close-up shot of R2 being still that he was blue. So I don't know, maybe they had a green one for one that they could move around, and then maybe had a still one for the close-up. But yeah, I mean, if you watch Zack Snyder's Justice League, they managed to change the colour of Superman's suit, and it looks pretty spot on from blue to black, just using digital effects. So I think in the series you couldn't tell it was green at all.
Just another mystery that we can wait for a convention to ask one of the people in the know.
100%, mate. I'm so glad that conventions are coming back because we've got lots to ask these people about. Lots. Any closing thoughts, Kat, on this gallery episode of The Mandalorian? And any closing thoughts on the end of Season 2 of The Mandalorian in general?
Well, I mean, I think the technology that they were showing in this gallery episode was absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, facial recognition in the human brain is so complex. I mean, it's nearly fully developed in babies. We are programmed practically from birth to recognize the human face. So to fool the brain into thinking that you're looking at a real face instead of a digital face is something very difficult. I mean, you're trying to fool the temporal lobe. and the visual cortex, if you want the biology of it. So I think this technology is only going to get better. How much more it's going to be used in Star Wars sort of remains to be seen. But if it does appear again in The Mandalorian or a different series, I think it's going to be even better than what we saw in the finale of season 2. I mean, the finale of season 2 does leave us with so many questions. I mean, one, what's Luke going to do with Grogu? I think he's too young to train particularly well. He's still a baby. And, what does Luke know of raising a baby? So, and, I don't think, is Grogu safe? Is Moff Gideon just going to give up? Is Moff Gideon going to be dragged now before a Republic council? And obviously there's this issue with the Darksaber and Din Djarin and Bo-Katan. Or he can't just give her the Darksaber. I'm a bit confused by that because in Rebels, Sabine just gives Bo-Katan the Darksaber. And yet here it's supposed to be Mortal Kombat. So I don't know if that's because they're from different clans, Mandalorian clans. But yeah, I can't wait for season 3 to answer some of these questions.
Speaking of season 3, Jason, you are aware of some season 3 rumours that are going around. Do you want to fill us in?
Yeah, I started noticing rumours popping up that it's been alleged that season 3 is going to be the last season of Mandalorian. Which, first of all, you look at it and you think shock horror. But I know off air we had a bit of a discussion, and I've got no problem with season 3 being the end of the Mandalorian. I would sooner it went out on a high. Let's face it, most stories are 3 acts, so you've got the beginning, the middle, and the end. Which, if you look at the way the Mandalorian's going, the ending now is what's happening to Mando, now that he's discovered more about his past, and what's going to happen with Grogu. But then also in the same articles, they've mentioned that although The Mandalorian as a series was going to come to an end, it's because there's so much more television that they can still use the characters in coming forward. Like they're still talking about the Rangers of the New Republic. They're also mentioning, obviously, the Andor series, although not really anyone from Mandalore. Well, I suppose they... No, I don't think they appear in that. And then, obviously, there's the Obi-Wan series. There's supposed to be a Lando series or some sort of Lando project in the making. So there's already a lot in the making. So for me, I have seen a rumour that there's already plans for a season 2 of the Book of Boba Fett, which obviously this year it looks like that is replacing the Mandalorian. So we've got a break between, whereas normally we were getting Mandalorian once a year. I think we're going to have about an 18-month to 2-year break, but we're not losing out on Star Wars. And I think this is a way that possibly they're going to go. Also, let's face it, Jon Favreau is a hot property in Hollywood. So for him to tie himself into a series for too long, I can't see happening. Obviously, Filoni with his new position, or year-old, 18-month-old position at Lucasfilm now, it makes sense that he could take over the running of The Mandalorian quite happily. But I think he's going to be busy with all these new projects as well. So it's exciting times. It would be sad to see the end, but obviously Star Wars it never seems to be the end for these characters. And with their popularity, I think they go on for quite a long time. So yeah, we'll just have to see what comes. But I'm not expecting anything from Lucasfilm denying or confirming anything until probably the end of the series, and I think it'll probably just quite clearly wrap itself up. But it's not something that concerns me, which I found quite bewildering when I thought about it.
Yeah, definitely. Kat, what's your thoughts sort of on those rumours and what to expect from season 3 of The Mandalorian?
Yeah, I mean, so if season 3 is the wrap up, then obviously that is a lot of story to wrap up in only about 8 episodes. So I don't know if it is true that it will be the final season, but I agree with Jason. I would rather it go off, off air on a high. You don't want the storyline dragging at all. But they kept Clone Wars going for 7 seasons, and they kept Rebels going for 4. So it all depends what story they want to tell and what tricks Filoni's got up his sleeve. But I'm excited for the new projects as well. Ahsoka will definitely continue, I think, some of the storyline that we're seeing in The Mandalorian. I mean, we know that Ahsoka's going to be in it, and we know that supposedly Bo-Katan is going to be in it. And that's going to offer us more of these characters. I mean, then if you think about Fennec Shand, she's now appearing in The Bad Batch. So even if it does come to an end, there is always more for these characters. And at the same time, sometimes it's good for characters to retain an air of mystery. Do we really want to know everything about Yoda? Do we really want to know everything about Grogu? Yes, we do. But should we? Half of their appeal is the fact that they are so mysterious and we don't know anything about them. So I think it's a fragile place to tread over, and it needs to be treated carefully. But it's in the right hands with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and all the team. So I've always got high expectations.
I'm going to echo that with Kat. That is the one thing that I think runs through The Mandalorian and Clone Wars, Rebels, Bad Batch. With Filoni and now Favreau alongside him leading the charge, there's a continuity that was missing from the sequel films. There's the old adage of too many chefs spoil the broth, and I think that is what, for me, that is what happened with the sequels. There was too many people putting too many ideas in. I know that happened with the original films, and worked very well because George basically burnt himself out working so hard on the first one. But I do think that by doing Force Awakens with J.J. Abrams, who had his clear vision, then bringing in Rian Johnson, who again had a clear vision, and a vision that I actually enjoyed, although it was very different, and then bringing J.J. Abrams back, and J.J. had the problem of now he was trying to meld what Ryan had done along with what he'd done. If there'd been that continuity from the start and more of a plan, I think we would have had a much more successful sequel series. And that's where The Mandalorian, all of these new TV shows, because they've got Dave Filoni behind them as the creative leader, I think that the Lucasfilm are on a winner there, and they need to stick to that package.
Well, I think for me, the story group was there the whole time during the sequel trilogy. So, it's a case of you've got to tell these producers and directors to use them. And I think, obviously, JJ did to a certain degree in the beginning. I think Rian Johnson has documented how, he spoke to Dave Filoni a lot. He spoke to Pablo Hidalgo a lot. Did Rian Johnson during Last Jedi. And then, obviously, the last movie, you had a director and a writing team write a completely different movie, Duel of the Fates. Episode 9, Duel of the Fates, directed by Colin Trevorrow. And then you have he leaves and they decide to make a different one. They bring JJ in, who brings his friend Chris Terrio in, and they decide to write their own movie and don't really listen to the story group. Story group produced that awesome book, Resistance Reborn. It's probably the best of the Star Wars novels they've done. It tied in all of the sort of canon from 2015, got tied together to this book, ready for the finale, and then it just like totally wasn't mentioned at all in the movie. And that's down to Chris Terrio and J.J. Abrams, in my opinion. And I think could the higher ups, could Kathleen Kennedy, could Big Bob at the time stamp their feet down and say, no, JJ, do it our way? Like, probably not, because you already got rid of a director for one reason or another, which we don't know the truth of yet. When that comes out, it'll be very interesting and probably change all of our minds again about the situation. But I think, with the television industry, I think with it being the likes of yes, you've got John Favreau's name on it and he's a big part of it, but like a huge behind the scenes presence in everything that they're doing on Disney Plus is Dave Filoni, and he understands how important it is to have the story group in your ear and be listening to them and to be talking to them and put them to good use. And when you do that, it means continuity shines through. So yeah, I think if they keep doing that, which is as I've just said, Dave Filoni's in that position at the minute, then these other voices can be heard and everything can tie in together nicely. And it might be the end. Mandalorian 3 might be the end of the Mandalorian series, but it doesn't have to be the end of Din Djarin. He can turn up in any other series. You never know. I might do a spin-off series called The Mandalorians, and it's him joining back up with his clan to take back Mandalore.
Well, that would be a lot of fun. Anything with Mandalore, I mean, that there's so much to be explored there, which we haven't really seen with The Mandalorian, because it's just been this one character. So yeah, I'm in on The Mandalorians. Good.
Okay, moving on from that to our sort of last topic of discussion. Obviously, it leaked by accident, I believe, during some sort of online convention, that Hasbro's next HasLab campaign. So this is where they announce a premium figure that's going to be released, or a premium figure set, and you've got to back it so it has X amount. So it might need 10,000 backers, for example, and if you commit to buying it, it's usually a premium product, so it's quite expensive, couple of £100, couple of $100 a pop. If they hit the desired amount of backers, then they make the product. If they don't, it doesn't get made. The first one was the back of the barge, Jabba's sail barge from Return of the Jedi in 3/4 inch scale, which got backed and made. They then did the Razor Crest, which got backed and made. Again, that was for the 3/4 inch figure line. I don't think the barge has been shipped out yet, because again, it has to get backed first before they make it. So the Razor Crests have not been sent out yet. I have not signed for either, but it has been officially announced that the next HasLab campaign is the Rancor, and I believe it is going to be the Black Series line. So I'm hoping it's going to be 6-inch scale to the 6-inch figures line, which I do collect. And I'm definitely going to be backing this one, no matter how much it is, because I sort of wasn't really dipping my toes in much when the other two came about, and also Hasbro Pulse wasn't available in the UK at the time either, so you have to sort of like buy through like a third party maybe, which is a bit dodgy. But obviously Hasbro Pulse has started in the UK now, so as soon as this goes up, we don't know when it's going to be going up, but hopefully before the end of the year is what I'm hoping for. But yeah, I really want this HasLab crowdfunded Rancor. Have you seen this Rancor, Jason? Are you excited about it?
I read the article literally just as we were coming on to record. I sort of quickly, it was one I'd missed, and I'm just trying it because I thought there was a date put to it, but I could be wrong. But yeah, the Rancor would be a lot of fun as a figure. Obviously, if it's Black Series, then that's great. 'Cause it's such a collectible line. But yeah, it's these HasLab things for me. I've always been a little bit outpriced on what they are. I would have loved to have got the Razor Crest, but just really didn't have the funds to do it. It's a great idea. I'd say it was inevitable that they'd have wanted to do a Razor Crest, so it was, to me, a bit of a marketing ploy. But what a way to do it, and what a way to make sure you're going to sell the product if you've got people committing to it on design. And I like the way they normally do the different stages. So obviously, 1 minute it was the Razor Crest, then you had all the different accessories that if you continued, you'd get that in the set. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with the Rancor, with the additions and everything. But yeah, no, anything with Hasbro's always going to be exciting times for Star Wars fans. Apart from their line of Christmas figures that last year were really, really a bad idea.
Oh, I like those.
You would.
Well, Kat, he has the important question, Kat, is that, Hasbro produced those Christmas figures, which I agree with Jason, they weren't the best. Instead of making those, they could have actually give us a Ben Solo 6-inch Hasbro Black Series, which we're still
I would
waiting
have
on.
immediately taken.
Oh! Good shout, Pete.
Even better, Christmas Ben Solo.
Oh, you just want Adam Driver in a Christmas jumper, don't you?
Oh my gosh, is there an image of that somewhere?
I'm sure you can make one.
We really should explain to people that Kat and I would obviously work together with the Jedi News team, so there's quite a lot of Mickey taking that goes on between the pair of us.
Absolutely, my Kylo Ren fandom is very well known amidst the Jedi News team, and I get a lot of teasing about it.
Kat, are you going to buy a Rancor, or were you going to save your money for some Kylo Rens?
I always save my money for Kylo Rens. At the moment, I've got the big Hot Toys Episode 9 figure on order. The only thing I want to basically ask Hasbro is, why do they keep making these crowdfunded projects of ships that get destroyed and animals that get killed? I mean, seriously.
It's because every child loves to destroy their toys.
Yeah, and there's no way you're going to destroy a $500 toy.
No, that's definitely one that someone in marketing needs to think of there.
I mean, it would be nice to have a crowdfunding of a ship that survives more than one film, or a ship that survives more than one season of a show. And they could have given us, of all the animals they could have given us in Star Wars, they go with the Rancor. I mean, however iconic it is, I mean, the Rancor survives 5 minutes.
It's not on screen that long. But what I'm really hoping for is, once it gets initially backed, which it probably will in the day, because I know the Razor Crest hit its backers in the first day. Obviously, as they add things on, as you get more backers, I hope they add a Luke Skywalker, but with the bone, the big bone he uses to put inside his mouth.
Do you think they might add a headless Gamorrean guard as well?
I hope so. I'm all about that.
Oh, this is getting pretty gory.
I hope they add the door mechanism as well, and the door that crashes down on its neck.
Oh, poor Rancor.
Oh, there's so many possibilities, You say about the other ships, Kat. There's one ship that always seems to get overlooked. We want a Ghost, and we want a Phantom and Phantom 2 to go along with it.
Oh, I would back one of those if Hasbro did one of those, because they've got all the 6-inch now figures to go in them.
Oh, beautiful. That's. I think we'll have a word with James. He can put that to Hasbro.
Definitely. Well, guys, I think that's pretty much the Star Wars chat summed up this week. Jason, have you got anything you want to add about any of the topics we talked about today?
No, just that. Obviously, looking forward to. We've got less than a month now to Visions, so I won't have to rewatch quite so much Star Wars as I have been. I've recently rewatched Rebels, and I think I'm going to start going through the old Ewoks and Droids episodes, so that should see me through. But yeah, at the moment, it's a good time to be a Star Wars fan.
100%. And Kat, anything you want to add about any of today's topics that we've spoke about?
Yeah, I mean, it's been great talking. I mean, we went through this whole episode without mentioning the fact that in the gallery, Dave Filoni isn't wearing a hat.
Oh, yes. Yo, you completely got me there. I forgot that one. I was a bit shocked. I didn't realise he had hair.
And my first thought was, how good is his hair? He's got a good head of hair.
I know.
Why hide behind the hat?
Like, as a bald man, I was like, I am jealous of Dave Filoni's hair. I want his hair.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. I want his job and I want his hair.
I have to admit, any time I see Dave Filoni interviewed, and he's always got some sort of Star Wars nugget that you come away from that series and you think, oh, that's so Star Wars.
Yeah, it's like he's always got some sort of nugget of Star Wars information. He's always wearing something Star Wars. So obviously it was that Patagonia custom-made Mandalorian jacket he had on, which I'm like, where do you buy those from? Because I want one. And then he's also blends it in with some Pittsburgh Penguins parrot as well. I always notice.
Crazy.
Jason, where can the people find you on social media?
I knew you were going to ask me this. It's at Hondo Ling for Twitter. That's pretty much the best place. I have to admit, I'm still pretty terrible on Twitter. But yeah, drop me a line and if you want to have a chat about Star Wars.
And Kat, same question to you. Where can the people find you on social media?
People can find me at Kat Kylo on Twitter. Always happy to talk Star Wars and Kylo Ren.
And you can find me on Twitter at Geordie Jedi Pete. You can find the podcast on Twitter at Boars Star. And you can also find the podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Star Wars Podcast. But this is the end of this episode. Guys, thank you very much for joining me. Listeners, thank you very much for listening. May the Force be with you all. Remember, as soon as that HasLab Rancor goes live, let's back it, let's get it made. And remember, always tell that to Kanja Club.
Hello, Star Wars listeners. This is Savannah Odit. You might know me as host of The Dorky Diva Show with my co-host Brian Balance. I am also producer of The Adventures of the Zolan Dart, which is a Star Wars-inspired audio drama that we produced over the last year. If you love stories about smugglers, courage, heroic characters, and maybe a few foes along the way, you should go to thedorkydivashow.com and listen to The Adventures of the Zolan Dart today.
Shout! We've got your pigs.
Were any of the critters harmed?
What did you do now?
I didn't do anything. I just freaked out for no reason.
It was nice doing business with you again. Maybe next time we could deliver something less temperamental.
Now, what you call temperamental, I call fun.
Hey, is there a place nearby where I can make some repairs?
3 clicks south of here, you'll find a small spaceport. They should have what you need, as long as it's nothing too big.
Dynamic class? My stars, you don't hear about many of those still being space-worthy.
It's been in my family for a while.
She's pretty great. Any chance you have a hover cart we can use to load up?
I'll check out the HoloNet to see if anything new has come up in the sector.
My name is Sereth Khan. I am the chief here on Kamai. My people and I have been experiencing food shortages as of late due to unforeseen natural occurrences. We are looking to hire someone.
I say we take this one. The pay is great, and it's the type of job we're familiar with.
Welcome. You must be Captain Otoa. I've already sent word to Pac 2 to expect you in the next cycle or so.
You told him we were coming before we even accepted the job. That's rather presumptuous, isn't it?
Perhaps, though once I received confirmation that you were interested and on your way here, I couldn't help but hope.
Fair enough. Well, we'll be back as soon as we can.
Well, that's not good.
Is that blaster fire I hear?
Ah, so you're the one.
Captain, it sounds like they want to do this the hard way.
I love when they got some fight in them.
This is bad. This is bad. We're about to have a lot of company.
I'll see you soon.